The All right, I have Ryan Beckett. He looks like he didn't realize. Ryan Beckett for invocation, everybody. Come on up, Mr. Beckett.
Oh, that's fun, isn't it? Good afternoon, everybody. Would you please join me in prayer? Lord in heaven, we are so thankful for this particular club and for the opportunity that we have to use this club for fun, for fellowship, and to support and encourage people in our community. We thank you for the blessings of this life, for this food, and we ask that you would use it to bless us and nourish us as we go forward to serve your children in this community. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's always, I mean, you'd think that was pre-planned, but anyway, good job, Ryan. Next up, we have Emily. Do you want to do introduction of guests? I'll do introduction of guests. Oh, Lisa. Sorry, I missed you.
All right. We have Nancy. Is it Leahy? Okay, from downtown Rotary.
Welcome, Nancy. And then I believe that Emily has a guest. I think most of you met him on the way in, but Emily, if you'd like to introduce your guest, Killian. Woo! Welcome, Killian. And then Tammy, you also have a guest, I believe. Welcome, Benji. Welcome. All right. Club announcements? No, they're not. They are official members to be introduced in the very near future. Megan Beck and Joe Menard. All right. Birthdays. So Stephanie Kinney is Stephanie is going to be serving at Camp Hope here shortly. So Stephanie just celebrated her birthday. Martin Streit just celebrated his birthday as well. I think he's still overseas. Curtis Sunquist. I think it's his birthday. We should sing to him. Where's Bill? You want to lead us, Bill? No? Okay, here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Curtis. Happy birthday to you. Very cool. Thanks for being here on your birthday, Curtis. And then Tom has a birthday coming up, so. Jack? Is Jack here? No, we'll point it out to Jack. Okay. All right. And then Rotarians of Service. Amy Johnson's been with the club for 4 years. Brooke Barnes, 1 year. Mary Markey, 1 year. And Joel Whitehead for 1 year. So thank you to those members for their years of service. We have the Dick Johnson Memorial Blood Drive is on June 23rd. And then Lisa, I believe you can give blood on a quarterly basis, correct? Every 60 days. So, and I manned up and I gave blood on the last one. The first time it took them 3 tries to get it. So I bailed on the next one. So anyway, but I'm back. So, all right. So if you could sign up for that, June 23rd, Friday. Hopefully we'll see some Rotarians there. Okay? Every 60 days. I don't know how it gets tracked. It's just kind of our Rotary clubs pushing a drive within our club, so it's not necessarily tracked. Yeah. Hey, Jack, it's your dad's birthday on June 3rd. Just a reminder. So, yeah. Sorry, Tom. There we go. And then dinner service is happening today at 5, technically around 5:30 to 6. We're serving pizzas and Caesar salad and some cookies. So we've got, hold on. Oh my gosh, I'm losing people's names. But anyway, we got Scott Sharp, Stephanie Kinney, Raquel, and then Mark Hummel are all there serving. And I think they recruited a couple of friends too. So hopefully we'll get some pictures and some updates on that at Camp Hope. The Molly Davis golf tournament, the Rotary Trust golf tournament. If you can get signed up for that, we've got our team solidified for Southwest Rotary, but you can still sign up as a single golfer or teams or be a sponsor. So they're looking for that. I believe Taylor Stormo is the club contact. If you want more information, reach out to Taylor Stormo. Okay, and then I've got Nancy. If you want to come up, Nancy, and share about. Yep.
Oh, I just love looking out at the friendly faces, and that's just about all of them that I can see. I'm here on kind of an urgent call, bottom of the ninth, you might say. At bottom of the ninth, and this is on our project, the Pavilion project that's going on downtown Yakima, right in the railroad track. Your club, I know, is all in because I saw you guys were at $150,000 contribution to this amazing structure. And it's going on right now, and we literally, when I say bottom of the ninth, it's true. We want all the pavers in by Friday. We made good progress today. We had 8 people this morning. You'll see them over there. Pete Bansmeer, Jim DeGrasse, Sig Fossum, Brad Kissinger, Marissa Brown came in, and there was also our president from downtown, Rick Fairbrooks, and then John Ball. We need more people. And because when we had 8 people, it was just synced, and we were like in an assembly line of getting these pavers off of the wooden plaques and into the hands of the people laying them. We were down to 4. It really slows it down amazingly. So I'm hoping we've got 2 volunteers already from your club. Renee Coleman, thank you, and Tom Roberts, because Wednesday and Thursday from 8 to 5, it's wide open down there. DeGrasse is a foreman, so is Sig Fossum. He's the other foreman that'll be there. And you know how nice they are. So I just wanted to come encourage you. And our cheer is, you've heard the cheer, we will rock you. Well, this is, we will pave you. And we'll get this paving done by Friday, and then the rest of it is pretty much in the hands of the experts. But we really need you right now. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Nancy, could we get, who would be a contact if I send an email blast to our club, so who they could RSVP to? Who could they RSVP to for signing up? So between Wednesday to Friday.
Wednesday, Thursday of this week.
Okay, Wednesday and Thursday of this week. Right. Okay, and then if you can, are you leaving right now?
No, I'm
okay.
staying.
If you stay, then we'll connect.
Okay.
I just want so I can email blast our club.
I'm in your blue book, Nancy Leahy. You can use my email or phone. I'll write it down on here. Also, Jim DeGrasse.
Okay.
Or John Ball.
Okay. Perfect. Thanks, Nancy. Very cool. All right. With that, I think, Jill, you're up for Sergeant at Arms.
Thank you, President Dirk. Okay. Shall we start with the raffle? Who's gonna run the raffle? Who has the cards? Oh, okay. Drawing. Thank you, Ryan. 871. Where are you? Okay, I think this seems rigged. We're very close together. How much do we have? 371. So sorry, Steve. Okay, do we have? Oh, it was a long weekend, so we better have some happy bucks. Happy bucks. Bob. Great news. We're always young. We're always younger than downtown. Okay, don't forget. All right. Any other happy bucks? Oh, yes. Oh, and we are happy to have you. Thank you for that. Yes. Go ahead. Oh, bonus points. Very sweet. I don't think you guys can top that, but yeah, any other happy bucks? Yes, Lisa. Oh, that's great. Well, we wish her good luck. Hank. Oh, that's so great. What a treat. All right, more happy bucks. Yes, Josh. Oh my gosh, that's oh my gosh. That is fabulous. Yes. Okay. That's great. Great shameless plug. All right. Yes. Oh, I like it. I like it. You went out, you did the research, assessment complete. All right. Joe. It was. It was. Very special. I will add she's already in her graduate work, and she wants to work for the CIA, and I think she's going to do it. Yep. Yeah. As an analyst. Yeah. The secret. And she's studying Arabic. It's crazy. Okay, Bill. It's good to see him. So you had a trip, and it was great. And how much are you paying for that trip? $2. No, how good was it, Bill? $3 worth. Okay. Well, that's they give me the microphone. This is what happens. Any more happy bucks? Dirk. There you go. Yes, very nice. All right, it looks like we're closing on a happy books. How about shameless plugs? There you go. Yeah. That's a great shameless plug. I love it. Any other shameless plugs? Happy bucks. Okay, let's go time then. So I've been wondering about where some of our everyday expressions come from, like in like Flynn. My sister used to say that all the time. And I was wondering, where did these things come from? I did what any of us would do. I Googled it. And I bet you already have an idea, at least some of you older Rotarians, that it's related to the swashbuckling film star Errol Flynn, right? So I'm going to turn the tables on you guys today and have you guys tell me the history of some of the phrases and expressions that I've come up with. If you are successful in answering the questions, there will be no charge. If you are unsuccessful, it will be $3 each. Okay? We're going to start with Chief Murray's table, the specially cultivated for this table. The phrase is caught red-handed. I'm sure he's never used that phrase before. It's used to indicate that a person has been discovered in or just after the act of doing something wrong or illegal. How did this phrase originate? I like the creativity in that, Hank. I almost believe it. And the effort is spectacular. That is incorrect. Okay, there was an old law stating that if someone butchered an animal that didn't belong to him, he would only be punished if he was caught with blood on his hands. However, if he was caught with the meat with no blood on his hands, he would not be punished. I don't know about the hand washing back in the time there. So that's $3 for you guys. The creativity was excellent, but it is for charity. But yes, Hank, well done. Okay, moving on to Josh's table, the Do Josh's table. You may have heard of the term hands down, which means without much effort. How did this phrase originate? Hands down. No creative stories to bring forward just for effort? I mean, yeah, you can call Hank. Hands down. All right. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right, hands down is from the 19th century sporting paper, and what it means is that in a horse racing victory, it is so secure that the jockey can relax and drop the reins even before crossing the finish line. He wins, hands down. Yeah. All right, this one's interesting. I think we'll go to Taylor's table on this one. Acid test. What is the origin of the phrase acid test? All right, Nancy, you got to help them. Acid test. What is the background and origin of that phrase? We always say, "Oh, that's we'll do the acid test on this." You are actually correct. Gold reacts differently to acid than other metals, and so it was used to determine whether it was actually gold that a miner had found. There you go. I don't think that was proper English, but you what? Okay, good job. Well done. Okay, moving back to Ryan's table. Where does the expression, "it's raining cats and dogs," come from? Because we do use that one a lot. Yeah. You give up? Okay. Raining cats and dogs derives from Victorian times when household pets, like cats and dogs, slept at night on the eaves where it was warm. When the rain came down heavily, the water in the roof washed them off the eaves and they came down. Raining cats and dogs. I know. Who knew? Yeah. This is great cocktail party stuff here I'm giving you guys. All right. Here's a good one. All righty. Lisa's table. We've all heard the expression feeling under the weather, especially after the last few years. Where did that expression originate? Got cigars as a prize and not a stuffed animal. If the person was close to winning but did not succeed, close but no cigar. There you go. So that's, I think I got everybody. That's $3. Thank you so much. There's no place to put paper.
Thanks, Jill. All right. Next, I'm going to have Tom. I got to let him settle down here a little bit. Next, I'll have Tom come introduce our speaker.
Thank you, President Dirk. So it's my pleasure to welcome to Southwest Rotary today, Yakima Chief of Police, Matt Murray. Chief Murray will give us an update on the police departments. He has served as the chief since March of 2019. Prior to coming to Yakima, Chief Murray served as a police lieutenant for the Denver Police Department. He joined the Denver Department in 1991, where he served as a deputy chief of police, police commander, chief of staff, and detective in the department's major crimes divisions. It will be interesting to learn how he ended up coming to Yakima. Anyway, so would you please give a warm Southwest Rotary welcome to our Chief of Police, Matt Murray.
Thank you, Tom. So, I was just asked to, come and say whatever you want to talk about the Nuggets. No, that's not what I'm here to talk about. Although the Denver Nuggets, this is the first time ever that they made the championship series. And Josic, known as Joker, is a pretty good guy. They asked him, he's the center of there's a lot of police reform happening in America. You sound familiar? And I was lucky enough to get chosen to go to Scotland with 20 American police chiefs. And the concept was, in 2015, 26% of the people that died in encounters with the police were other than gun. Now in America, you have to understand, we all think about this different than the rest of the world, really. But when I say that, that means that Emily, I come to her house, she pulls a gun, and I shoot her. Most of us can say, well, don't pull a gun on the cops, right? I mean, that I'm not trying to advocate the death penalty here, but I'm just saying that we can all wrap our head around. But how is it that 26% of people in the United States that died at the hands of the police was not a gun? And then you look at countries like England and Scotland, where the police don't carry a gun. So how is it that they are able to resolve these situations without a firearm? And that was the question. And the Police Executive Research Forum, which is basically the think tank for police in America, was working on this, and they got these chiefs together, and I was lucky enough to go, and we went over to Scotland. It was an amazing experience. And the group drafted what is now known as the PERF 30, which is the kind of defining rules about use of force, the best practices in use of force in American policing. So I'm very proud that I was able to get to do that. I was lucky. It wasn't like they, oh, hey, that's a smart guy, let's bring him. But it was really my boss that got me the ticket on that train. But it was a neat experience. Well, I can tell you the union and the old school police did not like this concept. People are slow to change, and police are slow to change. And I would say, amazingly, in the 7 years since then, American policing has dramatically changed. You can say what you want about the police, but we are nimble and we're quick. We change fast. And I think that's a testament to the kind of people we are, and that's a good thing. And so But it was a very tumultuous end that we were battling all the police union, and it was a really difficult time. I was kind of the heir apparent to become the next chief, and they really didn't want him, and they really didn't want me, and so there was a big old fight. And he retired, and then, as normal in a big city, all of the appointed positions go back down. And I was like, yeah, I don't really want to be a lieutenant, especially after everything I've done. So I started looking for police chief jobs around the country. And my granddaughter lives in Tacoma. So to be close up here to her was one of our big goals. And this job came open at that time. And frankly, I think there were some issues that Yakima was facing at the time that was intriguing to me. And I felt like the training and experience that I had would lend itself to this community. And hopefully you all think it has. The jury's not out yet. I certainly have my detractors. But I will tell you, so that's kind of the story of how we got here. I was actually a finalist in Little Rock, Moline, which is where John Deere is made, Illinois. So there's some places around the country. You were talking about New York. I was Syracuse was another place. But this was really where we felt like was most at home. And actually, I grew up in a town called Pueblo, Colorado, which is about 100 miles south of Denver. And this is really similar. Yakima and Pueblo are really similar weather-wise, the community, some of the problems, the challenges that we face. So we've really felt like it's a great home. The other thing I will tell you, and I'm not just blowing smoke, I'm a pretty candid guy, we really, especially after that experience leaving Denver, which was just so caustic, and you saw it in Seattle, you've seen it in Chicago. I mean, it's just, being an American police chief is a really, you better have thick skin is all I can say. Because you're going to get attacked, and I do here. I get one side of the aisle just screaming at me to make sure we do better traffic enforcement, and then I get people saying, oh my gosh, you have gang fights, why are you writing traffic tickets? I mean, you can't win. And so you have to just get tough and do the best you can and do what you think is the right thing to do. And but what we wanted was a community where we felt welcomed. And she has spent the last 4 years at Garfield Elementary in special ed. She's moving to Roosevelt, but we really have felt welcomed. I mean, really. And some interesting side notes. Denver's a great place. It was a good place to work. Big city, lots to do. But, I get thanked here probably 10 times a month. You wouldn't get thanked in Denver 10 times in a year. I'm telling you, it is not friendly. The big cities are really not friendly to police. And I feel bad for police in big cities in America because it's a struggle. But here, we feel extremely supported. Just today, 2 different groups. One, Lisa was there with Republican women and brought a bunch of gifts for the officers. That is not unusual. That is a normal thing that happens in Yakima. And we get kids come in and groups come in, and people will stop me and thank officers. I have to tell you, you have a daughter in policing, I'm sure you would agree with this. I'm not kidding. Thank you means so much more to us than anything else you can do. Because it gets tiring to always be the bad guy. And the police are often the bad guy, that just assume the bad guy. We don't get called on your good night, And the other thing that happens with policing is, we go to bad people's houses all the time, but we also go to good people's house on their worst night. And what happens to younger officers is they get jaded because they believe everybody is the bad person except the cops. And that's a dangerous thing, and that's something we really work on. So this is a really long answer, but it might prompt some questions, which would be great, or else I'll just jump into some of the other stuff I can talk about. But I want to tell you a few things that have happened since I've come, and I hope, I really mean this, that you don't try to attribute it to me. I'm facilitating a lot of change. I was brought to help do that, but the change, the successes are occurring because of the people who are out there doing the work, and I really sincerely mean that. In 10 or 15 years, I don't care if there's a building named after me. I don't care if they say, you remember that one chubby, weird guy that walked around all the time? That doesn't bother me. What I hope is that some of the things that we have implemented that are really working, that I'm going to tell you about, are still going. That you, the community, demand that we keep our eye on the prize, and we consistently execute these strategies that work. You may remember a couple years ago, because I caught heat for this too. A book club on Don't Shoot, the book Don't Shoot. You kind of remember that? Some of you might have read it. Anyway, it's written by a guy named David Kennedy, and he was John Jay. He's a professor at John Jay, and his whole career he's been working on this strategy, philosophy. How do you really reduce major crime, especially violent crime and gang crime? They call it group violence. What's the most effective way to do that? And he came up with what's called the focused deterrence model. And by the way, he gets on Zoom with us. I mean, he found out, I guess, Google, right, that we were doing this, and he just started, he's helping us for free. It's amazing. Anyway, this is the concept. And if you think about, if you have a business, if you have employees, if you have children, if you have grandchildren, this same theory works pretty much universally. And that's the carrot and the stick. What you do is you identify and it's an arbitrary number, but we picked 20 because it was manageable, the top 20 people who are most likely to shoot or be shot. And you do that in an objective way, data. So if you're in a car with a gun, you get 5 points. If you go to the hospital with a gunshot wound, you get 5 points. If you get caught illegally selling a gun, it's 3 points. Whatever it is, there's a system. There's a matrix where you assign points to different things that researchers have been able to tie to gun violence. And then you take all those scores and you look at the cutoff line that you feel you can manage. Those are your 20. You go to those people, literally, go to them and have a conversation. And the conversation goes like this. I know who you are. I know what you're doing. And I am going to be in every bit of your business from here on out unless you want to change your life. And we have partners like Renee and her team. And we have a program called the WAY program that's really instrumental in this. And they then say, by the way, to dramatic success, they say to these people, we're willing, they're going to get you the stick, and we're going to do this. What would it take for you to change your life? What is the thing that's holding you back from going a different direction? And then they provide it. Education, medical, most of it's drug treatment. A lot of these kids are addicted to drugs at extremely young age. And they work with the entire family. It's extremely intensive. It's extremely expensive. If you ever want to sponsor a project, you want to really make a difference in gang crime, work with WAY program, work with our partners, because this is what it takes, is getting these kids off of drugs, getting them out of this lifestyle, getting them into something that they can change their life. And some of them do. And 68% of this is in Yakima. 68% of the 20 most likely to shoot or be shot don't have any more police contact in 3 years. 68. I'll pass on your thanks because I didn't do it. All I did was say, look, we ought to try this, right? I was mentioning today that one of the things I think is really important is that we don't fall for the shiny object. And I think Yakima has had that problem because there's been a lot promised and new programs get started and it just kind of falls apart. And what we need to do as a community, in my opinion, what I would ask of you is to help keep our government and us and the police department focused on this strategy that works. We got to keep supporting this. We got to stick to it. You guys, I'll be honest with you, and I was mentioning this today, so you're going to hear some of the same things again. I'm sorry, but it's true. You often hear people say, you know what, we just need after-school programs. I mean, God bless your heart. That's really nice of you. But that's not how you stop gang violence, because they're not going to school. Oh, wait, let's get a swimming pool. Yeah, no. See, gangs are not in gangs because they don't have anything to do. That's just a misguided notion. It's nice. I like swimming pools. But that's not how you reduce gang violence, because by the time these kids are making those decisions, they are so far out of the realm of anything you've ever experienced. They're probably addicted. They've been trafficked and sexually abused. They've been beaten up. They've been introduced to violence, and it means very little to them. I'm not saying they're good. I'm not trying to get to go hug a thug. Okay? Don't mistake my kindness for weakness. I will put your butt in jail. Gentlemen, if you weren't here, I ought to have said something different. Some people need to go to jail, And some of these kids need to go to jail. And that's an unfortunate whole nother topic we can talk about with the legislature, which I've spent a lot of time testifying. So your community has really been holding back the water on juvenile violence. And you got to thank your council for that, too, because they came with me. And we got one bill stopped that would have been. The bill that we got stopped, you could not commit a crime as a juvenile. And by the way, juvenile went up to the age of 23. Think about this. I want to walk you through what could we brought this up to them. And I got 90 seconds. That's how long you get to testify. So let's just say a 7th grader brings a gun to school and threatens another child, and you call the police. Under that law, what would we do? Nothing. I wouldn't even respond. My job is not to respond to non-criminal events. And I don't seize property from something that's not a crime. Do you get what I'm saying here? That's what we're dealing with. You could shoot someone, and we would do nothing, including take the gun. I can't seize your property, Mr. Allen, not without legal due process. I'm the police. That's what doesn't get thought through, some of this stuff. And that's what we're facing and struggling with on the legal front, but I won't waste your time on all that. Some good news. So here's what I want to report that I really hope you take away, because I came here, I don't know, it's probably been 3 years. It's probably pre-COVID. Do you guys remember? I was pretty early on. I was talking about all the stuff we're going to do. And yeah. And I said this then, and I'm going to say it now, although I do see it getting a little better. This community suffers from lack of self-esteem. We have a very low self-esteem. We really hate ourselves, except we love living here. I know that because I walked the entire community. If you want to see, there's a map on my wall. And people talk to me, and it was just amazing. Because people, they do love living here, but they just can't say enough bad things about our community. And there's just this belief that we're just terrible. We're a pit. It's the worst crime ever. Do you all realize that we have reduced non-fatal shootings? I don't mean we, the police department, I mean the city, by 24%. In 2020, and this is a little subjective, we get after every shift, the sergeants write a little thing about what happened, and it gets sent to all of the bosses, so I see every one of those. In 2020, I would say to you, at least 5 times a week there'd be a drive-by shooting. We had one house over by the convention center that had 17 drive-by shootings between July and February. One house. How would you like to be their neighbor? And by the way, the lady who lives next to them has a really nice, cute little house, and she's doing her best. We owe it to her to deal with this. Okay? Well, up until 3 weeks ago, I think we'd only had 5 drive-bys the entire year of 2023. Now, there's a spike right now. It's happening right now. I won't lie to you. There's a little gang spike, and we're on top of it, try to get that thing quelled down. And they're going to happen. It's not a steady drop. You're going to see, it's like the stock market. It comes and goes. But the trend line is really going down. Some of the other numbers I'd love to share with you that I think are just amazing. The state average. So you've heard a lot about how police reform dramatically made crime go up. Now, I'm not a researcher. I can't prove that's true, but it does seem pretty coincidental that after all this George Floyd stuff happened and we all decided we hated the police, crime went up. Weird. Anyway, call me skeptical. So anyway, the state had a 15.4% rise in aggravated assault. And I want to tell you, I think aggravated assault is the best measure of violence, and I'll tell you why. Because murder, first of all, there's not very many, thank God. But if you had 10 murders and next year you have 12 murders, it's up. Thank you. That's my math people in here. You could be my analyst, right? Does that really measure accurately crime in a city of our size? It could be that you had a better doctor, or the guy was a good shot, or the ambulance crew was in Sunnyside and didn't get there very fast, or they shut down your fire station, which is in the budget talk. There's a lot of things that can go from an aggravated assault to a homicide. But if you combine the two and then you track those, that's a pretty accurate measure. So aggravated assaults in the state of Washington went up 15.4%, but we had a 17.4% decrease. So that's 32% difference. Robbery, state average went up 10%. We showed a 29% decrease. There's 39%. We're way beating the state averages. Now, I see you got a good question, and you should. We're going to get to this. I want to just say this. If you have a 600-pound friend and he loses 50 pounds, you say, hey, good job, Bill. But, let's keep going. We're not done yet. We got a lot to go. We're the 600-pound guy. We got a ways to go. But it's heading in the right direction. This is way better than when he comes to you with his pie and, just gained 30 pounds. We were, in 2019, we were, I think, the 8th worst city for crime in the state. We're not even in the bottom third anymore. Yakima's really coming out of a lot of problems. And I believe that it's because we have incredibly good ethical officers who are doing a really good job, working very hard. The community has rallied. We do a lot more collaborating than we did when I got here. There's a real appetite for that. The domestic violence initiative has been stunning. And if you're interested, you should just go to one of their meetings. You will not believe what you're going to see. I'll wrap this up. I sent my to Lisa this morning. If you want to know what creates a gang member, if you really want to do gang prevention, I'll tell you, it's domestic violence. We got surprised when we started our domestic violence initiative that out of the top 20 most likely to shoot or be shot, only 2 didn't have domestic violence as a child. They grow up in homes where violence is normal. They're not repeating the offense. They're not mimicking what dad did, although there's some of that. What they're doing is this is the conditioning they got. This is how they react to stress, frustration, and anger. Violence. And like everything, there's a bell curve, and you're looking at that third standard deviation, who's committing these offenses. I saw you, Nancy, shaking your head, and I want to tell you something real interesting, and then I just really want to go to the floor. How many people do you think in this city, with pick our worst crime year, how many do you think are actually shooting guns at other people? Gang, let's just use the gangs. How many? What's the number of the pretty bad dudes? 40? 200? Anybody else? Anybody else? You owe me $6 for the wrong answer. 10. 10 are willing to shoot. So that means like 10% of the actual gang will actually pull the trigger. They're scared, most of them. And you would be too, because there's people that shoot at you all the time. They act tough. And they'll do some awful things. Do not get me wrong. They rape little girls. They sell drugs. These are people doing bad things. But it's fascinating because if you get those 10 off the board, you see a dramatic drop in non-fatal shootings. The final thing I'll say is that if you ask me what's the real challenge right now, it's really not gangs. Gangs, even in our worst year when I was here, was about 300 incidents a year. And domestic violence, the YWCA gets 10,000 calls a year. We have about 3,500 reports of domestic violence. The bigger challenge for us is mental illness, substance abuse. See, we're not designed to fix that, the police. And yet, we're always asked to, which is really frustrating. During the whole George Floyd thing, some of you in this room probably said it. We got to get the police out of drugs. We should legalize them. We got to get the cops out of mental. I agree. Now quit calling 911. Because as soon as you get faced with it, guess what you do? And guess who doesn't come? Anybody else. It's a really difficult challenge because the country has not created a system to deal with this. We're starting to. Would you agree, Renee? I think we're starting to. But it's a huge mountain to climb. Sir. Yes. No. I think the bigger thing is, just like you're bringing it up, is it creates transparency and trust. It was intentional. You know, Tom mentioned I was a chief of staff in Denver, so that was 10 years I worked directly for the chief of police, and I was in charge of the media relations team, and it's 7 people. So I learned a lot about it. I came with a strategy that was pretty tried and true. We have 50,000 Facebook followers. That's half the population of Yakima. Why do you think we do, by the way? Because you get information there. You don't have to wait 3 days for Kima to find this out. I'm not being mean. Our media is not very robust here. And I'm not picking. I'm just saying that you can get information fast, and it's important to me to get it to you fast. And there are sources out there, and I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, and you can disagree, but there are sources out there who repeat stuff that's just totally wrong. So I counter it. I literally personally get on my page and counter it. No, sir, that's not true. I'll say, ma'am, could you tell me where that information came from that you're quoting? And then they just stop talking. I think that's important. And so what we've done, and there's some dangers to this, is we are training all of you to come to us for information. But you better trust me, because what if I'm not ethical? That's a very powerful weapon. Yes, sir. Yes, hit record. I woke up one day and said, man, I just have too many employees. This just sucks. There's just so many people to do things with. Yeah, I want to make cuts. You know, that'd be, and the guys will love me for it, I think, if I just get rid of 11 jobs. I mean, it's just absurd. But here's the thing. I am a good partner in our senior team, and my boss deserves my support, and he is faced with a situation where, anybody here run a business? Good. So I'm going to say this to you, because you're going to understand it, and I don't really. The red line is getting above the green line. Does this X thing in 2025, which I think means we're going out of money. No, we're going to go broke. The costs are far eclipsing the expenses, and there has not been an income increase since levy lid lists were allowed in 2001. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm just giving you information. But that's a fact. So to think that Zesta Cucina is not charging more, it is. Like McDonald's is way more than it was 2 years ago. And people still go. They just choose to go. And that's choice, right? Well, city services also cost more. Employees cost more. Cars cost more. Our cars are $83,000 a piece now. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And so I think the problem with the budget, the short answer from my perspective, is that even in this room, people don't equate what you pay in property taxes with services you receive. When you flush your toilet, you don't really think, you know, somebody's kind of running all this water. When you call 911, you don't think, you know, part of my money that I pay goes to that. And so the choice is really going to be the community's choice to make. Do we pay $38 a month more on our mortgage in order to have these city services or not? And one of the difficult parts of this discussion is also this, because this is just true. We account for 44% of the city budget. The fire department accounts for another 30-something. So between the public safety services, you're talking 70% of every dollar goes to safety. So you can't say, well, don't cut police and fire, cut something else. What are you gonna cut the computers? What is not have gas? No cars? It's not that simple. This is a difficult problem that's going to have to get solved. The other thing, and I want to get right to you, is even if you make this 10% cut in 25, you're going to be back in 27 with the same problem, because expenses are still going to grow and income is not. That's a struggle that we're going to have. But I think it's going to be throughout government, and I think people don't feel like they're getting value for their dollar in government. I'm trying to show you that I think you are, at least from what we're doing, and I will continue to commit to be a good steward of your money. We return money every single year from our budget, and I mean lots, millions of dollars we're returning. So we're careful, but that's important. And sir. So I brought it with me, and I will tell you. Let me give you the numbers first, then I'll equate it. So, in the United States, the FBI measures 51 because they include Washington D.C. So all the states plus Washington D.C. in the per capita number. Washington State is 51st out of 50 states, and we have been for 15 years, and it's getting worse. We have in Yakima right now 1.47 officers per thousand. The state is 1.38, so we're beating the state. But if we go to the budget cut, it'll be 1.31, and currently, because we're understaffed right now, we're at 1.25. I think I will tell you in Denver, we had a really robust analytics team, and some of you may have heard a couple years ago I asked for analysts, and it's really paying off, and it's a really smart thing to do because you can look at a lot of data and make sense of data. In Denver, we were doing things that were pretty amazing. We're not here able to do this yet, but we can. In Denver, we could show you with a 0.7 degree of reliability, whatever that's called, you numbers guys, like really high, that for every 17 traffic citations you wrote, you could reduce one traffic accident. That's amazing, powerful. And I can equate it to dollars. So when we went to council and the mayor, we could say, here's the menu, what do you want to do? We could show you clearance rates could be affected by the staffing of various units. I think those are far better measures. And I'll give you a quick example of why, and then you may have a follow-up question. Baltimore has fewer residents than Denver by a lot, like several hundred thousand. Denver has 1,600 police officers, and Baltimore has 2,400. So we were talking about New York. The eastern model of policing is very different than the western model. Out here we have cars and big precincts. Back there they have foot patrols and people that just their whole beat is an apartment complex. So I think it's really difficult. I think it's a bigger conversation than just the ratio, although I do think the ratio is troubling. What else? Sir? So I think, let me first say this about drugs. We have the highest number of overdose deaths per capita of any county in this state. Is that correct, Renee? Do you think? I think we're certainly in the top 3. We had over 100 overdose deaths, and I think 71 were fentanyl, and we had like 12 murders. Why aren't you guys screaming about drugs? Everybody's screaming about gang murder. It's interesting to me because there's a lot of people dying, and the fire department, I didn't bring those numbers, but I think they did 130 Narcan administrations, by the way, at $100 a piece. So you could add, if you assume that by getting Narcan they were probably going to die, you could add 130 to that number. It's absurd. And I don't believe, personally, that legalizing drugs, and I used to think, go ahead, let them, right? It ain't working. Oh my gosh. No, not Rukoff, she's juvenile. He just retired. Judge Elifson will tell you, he ran drug court, that that people don't make big life-changing decisions unless they're really often in a crisis. I don't know if you agree with that or not. I think it's difficult to get people who are addicted to drugs laying in a park who can get their drugs cheap every day to go in and say, Renee, I want to change my life. It doesn't mean they don't. It's certainly a decision for you to make, not me. This is a societal decision. We're going to have to decide what it is we want, what kind of society we want. And I am no expert. But I do believe that it's an enormous challenge in this community. And mental illness, I don't know why there seems to be more mental illness. You know, when I was a new police officer in 1991, I'll bet you, and I'm not even kidding because we've talked about this, I'll bet you I went to a mental health call once a month. It's 5 or 6 a day for every officer, not just the department. That is the majority of what we do, is deal with mentally ill people and often addicted people. And most of our property crime is also related to drugs. So we're in agreement, but I would counter some of what you said with this. Circle K, 3:30 in the morning, mental illness and drugs, right there. Not a week later, dog park, dead mentally ill guy. I'm just telling you, we're not even close to that with gangs. So I understand that may be people's perception, but it isn't the reality. I agree with you, and that's why I think it's important for me to do things like this and to get on social media and try to counter this and say, I don't think it's exactly what you think. We had the highest number of fatalities 2 years in a row from collisions. We have 3 times the state average DUIs. We just got a grant from the Traffic Safety Commission of Washington to fund a DUI officer with a car. Yes, sir. Well, I'm wearing my uniform, so I got to be a little careful. And it's not, no, but I believe most of the people in this room, certainly some of us in the more senior tables, remember a time where there was a different accountability model, and where I'm going to try to include various groups, not just one. I was raised in the church, and the church has values that are common. So did the Boy Scouts that I was in, right? Those kind of things used to exist in America when it really doesn't exist much anymore. And so I think that's part of it. I think accountability is huge. I mean, I told you my wife is a teacher. Any other teachers in here? I mean, how frustrating is it to be a teacher? So little of her job is now teaching. It's managing this craziness. And the boss won't back you, and the parents won't admit that there's a problem. And by the time he's, 8 or 9, you can't believe the way kindergartners talk. It would stun you. This all feeds, in my opinion, the lack of accountability. And if you have no accountability in your business, I can tell you what your employees are going to do. I think that's a simple answer. I don't, just because I'm the chief doesn't make me right. Yes, ma'am. Go. That's not what I said. Let me correct you. Get on social media real quick. Yep. Yep. But look, can I just answer to that? So I'm on the group that's trying to create a Boys and Girls Club. That I volunteered to join the board should we get one started. So if you hear me say we shouldn't have after school programs, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that does not stop gang violence. If you think that building pools and Boys and Girls Clubs is going to reduce your gang violence numbers, I'm sorry, you're just mistaken. But they're critical, and I'll tell you why. Because, and I kind of made this up, so I don't know if there's any research. To me, there's 3 tiers of gang members. You got hardcore, really bad, that really need this wraparound service and lots of stuff. They are so far gone that it's an incredibly difficult challenge. There's not a ton of them. Then you've got those that are actively participating in the gang and willingly call themselves gang members, and they are on the fast track to get to that next group. But the kids who need Boys and Girls Club are tier 3. They're getting recruited. We just learned about 8 middle schoolers who were recruited into a Sereno gang last week. They went to a middle school and recruited these kids, and they gave them all guns. It's part of our spike. See, if they were in Boys and Girls Clubs, that would be different. I totally agree with you. It's good gang prevention, but it's not crime reduction. And so I don't get me wrong. I totally support that. And I support reading to kids, and I support having swimming pools. I'm